guys, I'm Janet, on occasion, and today we're playing another Total War Warhammer Battle Replay. Sort of. Actually, I'm going to use this video as a, just a platform to discuss Dwellers Below, actually. Because a couple of my subscribers had a massive discussion about it in the comment section of one of my videos. And honestly, I think it needs talking about. And this video is, well, this battle is a great one to talk about it. Because I found a little trick for it, and also, yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and there's a long time before things fight, so it seems like the perfect time to discuss Dwellers Below, and where it's at in this game. So I'm going to attempt to do that, but I will go over the, you know, what I've brought to the table and what my opponents brought. So this was actually a friendly between me and a friend of mine, so yeah, it was nothing too serious, but again, there was a fun little trick in it. So, anyway, so I've got a front line of swordsmen. And backline, I've got a couple of free company militia. I have 3 spearmen in the back, without shields, to save some money. I've got a couple of units of great swords, and I've got 2 units of demigryph knights with halberds protecting the Hammer of the Witches. I also have Volkmar the Grim. So the reason I bring Hammer of the Witches, obviously it's very accurate, very good for taking out, you know, any cavalry. And I'm against Bordelaux, so that's always useful. But if my opponent brought the Green Knight, having that really, like, you know, accurate, high damage, magical attack, it means I can wipe the Green Knight off the face of the earth very quickly. So it's unbelievably useful just to have this one unit to counter, you know, the like 3 grand that the Green Knight costs. It's you'd be daft not to bring it, basically. So also I've got Volkmar the Grim leading, and I have no wizard in here actually. So my opponent, you see over here, he's got the Wardens of Montfort. Actually, I am going to speed this up now because it takes a while. So I have the Wardens of Montfort here to worry about. So they're pretty cool actually. They have poison attacks, which is quite fun. So interesting mounted yeoman there. And then over here is the rest of his army. So he's got a front line of battle pilgrims, including the Wardens of La Mazontal. And these guys will do great against, you know, swordsmen or, you know, pretty much anything but great swords. And even then, they'll do some pretty good damage to great swords. They're very good units of battle pilgrims. Also, men-at-arms with polearms on either side. And over here, you'll see the very lucky Royal Pegasus Knights. All of those miss. Really lucky. It's only Royal Pegasus Knights, absolutely terrifying. They got 65. Yeah, if it'll stay on there, 65. Charge bonus, which is crazy. And also Ulbrich de Bordelaux, who's obviously very powerful. So they're going to hide behind this mountain, so I can't cannon them anymore. Also, you see the Jade Wizard, of course. You know, the Damsel, Law of Life. So, with Dwellers Below, which is why we're here. Also, he's got the Companions of Quenelles, that are the Questing Knights. They're very powerful. These guys will tear up greatswords and things really well. So they're very cool. I can't remember what their thing is, though, these guys. What their specific thing is. Is that it down there? Blessing of the Lady? Oh. Is that it? Didn't really help them against that cannon, though, did it? Oof. Anyway, yeah, that's about... Oh, and the Foot Squires. So that's it. So, yeah, straight away, you know, he's doing a bit of skirmishing, but that's fine. But what I'm really here to discuss is Dwellers Below. So, yeah, I think there's a few things, really. The main thing that people are saying is, oh, it's just too powerful. Which I think is sort of half the problem, but not really the heart of it. Because people say, oh, it can one-shot everything. And that's one thing I really hate about it, and that's the most obvious. Because it can take out an entire unit of Grail Knights in one cast, provided the Grail Knights stay still. So that can either be done with a Net of Amantok or Prey of Anathrema or whatever. But you can wipe out, you know, the most elite thing in your opponent's army in one cast, and that's really cheesy. And that doesn't really give the enemy much chance to counter it if they're netted. It's just, oh right, well that's dead then. And so it puts people off bringing more expensive units. And if people aren't bringing the elite units, then why do the elite units exist, you know? It's like Crimson Killers for the Greenskins. Fantastic Regiment Renown, but smaller unit size than regular Black Orcs, cost a lot more, and they're just a prime target for artillery. So they basically get wiped out before they reach the front line, because that's just what you're going to focus on first. And so it means that if you bring them, you're wasting the money. You're better off bringing another unit of normal Black Orcs and something else, like some Goblin Archers or something. So, you know, it lowers variety, and I think that's what Dwellers Below is sort of doing. But the main reason that it's lowering variety is the fact that basically Jade Wizards, they're supposed to be the medics. They're the healers. They were already a great pick. You know, you'd always want to bring a Jade Wizard because you can heal your units. That is massive. That is so vital. So it was always a really juicy pick. It was always really, you know, it was always a good thing to bring. Unless you were trying to do something specific, you know, like you wanted to have an AoE attack or something, in which case you'd tend to bring a Grey Wizard. Now, you don't have to bring a Grey Wizard with Pit of Shades, as well as your Jade Wizard to heal. You just spend another 200 gold, or whatever the currency is, and suddenly your Jade Wizard can do both. So what's the point of bringing a Grey Wizard anymore? I mean, Occam's Mind Razor is pretty good, but, you know, when you've got healing and damage, are you really going to trade healing for that one buff? I mean, probably not. So it's lowering variety. It's making all the other wizards pointless. And another thing they did in the patch, which also has a similar stupid effect, is the most damaging guys are supposed to be, the most damaging wizard is supposed to be the Bright Wizard, right? Law of Fire. I mean, it's explosions and fire. It's supposed to be the most damaging. But it's not. Nowhere near what the Jade Wizard can do now. And what made that an even worse pick, because the Bright Wizard you'd always bring against Wood Elves, right? Because that's an obvious thing to bring against Wood Elves, they're weak to fire. Except they've got the Firebark Elders now, so they can keep their whole front line resistant to fire to a greater extent than any other faction. And so what's the point in bringing a Bright Wizard now? It was always a good pick against Wood Elves, but now it's not, because they can negate that damage. Because it's obvious you're going to bring a Bright Wizard, or at least it used to be. So you'd bring the Firebark Elders to, you know, negate that damage, and then some. So suddenly, the Bright Wizard isn't so useful anymore. And, you know, so their AoE spells, they're not as good as Dwellers Below, so it's not really worth bringing them either. So suddenly, you've just got a position where the Jade Wizard is the only wizard people pick. And so now, you're in a horrible position where, because people always want to bring a wizard, they're always going to bring the Jade Wizard now, which means every battle you play against the Empire, or with the Empire, a Jade Wizard with Dwellers Below is going to be in that army. And that is incredibly frustrating. And, of course, there are ways to counter it. And there's one coming up here. So, there are a few ways to counter it. So, Dwellers Below is being cast, right? Voltmar strides in. Here, he uses Grand Soulfire. And that actually gives a plus 90% magic resistance. So you can see my greatsword taking absolutely no damage until it wears off and they take so much damage. So, and that unit gets wiped out completely. But you saw the damage there? That was half of their health got taken out by only half of Dwellers Below. If they'd taken the full brunt of that, I would have lost 2 units in one spell. And yes, I did have time to, you know, run away, but I was trying to demonstrate the fact that you could actually negate damage. And I wanted to see how much. But of course, yeah, you want to run your greatswords away with that. It buys you time to run away, which is a great counter. Because it's not just Voltmar, you know, you can use any warrior priest with Soulfire to do that, you know, 90% magic resist, which is huge. I mean, that is massive. But, again, you've got to see it coming. And same with just trying to run away from the spell. You've got to be able to see it coming first. So that's fine for experienced players that maybe have an eye, you know, on the whole battlefield at all times. But new players, and they're the ones we want to encourage, suddenly they've started playing a game where every single opponent they go up against has a spell that can wipe out all their best units. And that's not fair. Because it is just, as This Is Crazy in the comment section pointed out, it's just click and go, you know, it's so easy to cast. So you might not put it in the most opportune place if you're new or whatever, but it's easy to cast for new people, which is great for new people, right, to be able to cast. But they can't avoid it either, because they might not have the skills or the micro to be able to move people away, or you know, do the ridiculous option of using a Grand Soulfire to mop it up. So, you know, what do you do there? It just means that new people are going to feel completely shat on at all times. And what with the Jade Wizard being such a ridiculously popular pick at the moment, because they can heal as well as do all that damage, they're just going to be seeing it time and time again, and it's going to put them off the game. And so there's no... so yeah, it maybe is balanced, right? Because you can avoid it. If you run away your troops from it, and the enemy charge you, they can end up taking all the damage. That's another great way to counter it, if it's in your front line. Just step your guys back, the enemy will take all the damage from it, and it'll kill them. Right? So it'll be a massive own goal. But you've got to see it coming. So, I don't think that's fair. You know? it doesn't feel balanced. There's no counterplay there. People can't feel that they're doing something in order to sort of maximize efficiency with it. It's awkward. It's either advanced players will bring it with a net of some kind, either, you know, net of Ammontok or Prey of Anathrema, in which case it's an insta-kill, or, you know, it's going to be new players just throwing at each other and constantly feeling like their best units are getting destroyed, in which case they're not going to want to bring those units, and it's going to ruin variety. So there's a few pros and cons for it, but I think mainly it's cons. I think it would be much better if it wasn't the massive damaging attack that it was. If they maybe kept the duration the same, but halved the damage, right? So it gave people more time to get away, or even doubled the duration, right? But kept the damage the same over that time. It means it'd be going for ages, and if you did sit in it for that entire time, yes, it would wipe out your units. But it would give people more chance to react to it and get out of the way. But then, of course, if you are using the double thing of using a net or, you know, Prey of Anathrema or whatever, then they will take more of that damage, and that's another resource you've had to spend on making that happen. But it's not going to be as easy, and I think that would be a good thing, because even new players will be able to just put it in a front line, and, you know, people might not move their front line out of the way for it, do some damage there, or whatever, you know. It's still a spell you can use, but at the moment it just seems like an insta-kill on most things, and it's really messing up the games for new players, and it's new players we want to stick around. But I think the worst thing is it's ruining variety. There's no point to bring any other wizards now. I mean, yeah, I love to bring Amber Wizards for their, you know, Griffins with Terror and stuff like that, but generally it's just such a great pick. It's so competitive just to have this hugely damaging spell and healing, because healing has no drawbacks. You know, it's not like, oh, well, that won't be great in this situation. It's always good in every situation to be able to keep you guys healed. So, what can you do? You know, it's, I think it's in a terrible place. But yeah, people will adapt to it. But the fact is, new players aren't going to stick around long enough to adapt to it, because they're going to feel cheated. So, I think that's really upsetting. And I think that's why there's so much rage for it. I think advanced players think, oh, no, it's not that bad, because you just step out of the way. No, it's new players that are getting completely ruined by this. And you can't do that. You just can't have something that is just so easy to, you know, perform that will ruin things for new players. That is where the main thing lies. So yeah, lack of variety, lack of encouraging, you know, different builds. It's yeah, it's just too expected at the moment that people are going to bring that, and I think it's making people really apprehensive about bringing elite units, knowing they're just going to get wiped out. And all that's going to do for new players thinking, oh, my Grail Knights always get wiped out, I'll just bring more swordsmen. Suddenly they've got even more micro to deal with because they have more units, because they've gone for cheaper ones. And that's making it difficult for them. So, fine, you know, I get it. There are ways to avoid it. There are ways to negate the damage. But those are all advanced plays, you know? You've got to really be on the ball to see it coming. And I think the final thing, I reckon, that I think ruins it for people is either you cast it, it works, and your opponent feels cheated and lowers their enjoyment of the game, or you cast it, they step out of the way, you do a massive own goal, and you feel like an idiot, and it lowers your enjoyment of the game. So basically no one wins. You might think you win when you do it, right? But if the other person is suddenly losing their enjoyment of the game because of it, then you're going to have fewer people to play against. And the multiplayer community needs more people to play. And I don't think they're going to turn up while this is a problem, because they don't want to just get one-shot by this all the time. So I know this has been a bit of a rant, but it feels like something I should rant about, because it is a real point of contention for people. But, you know, I've shown you one other way to counter it. Obviously you can just move out of the way. There's a match, either went up yesterday or tomorrow, I'm not quite sure when I'm putting this video up, where I literally, I'm using cavalry, I'm cycle charging, they just can't hit me with Dwellers Below, because I'm constantly moving, and, you know, that's a fine way of dealing with it, just don't be around when it goes off. But, again, it's going to be tough for new players to do that kind of thing, so it seems unfair. So, yeah, in really competitive games, fine. If someone wants to waste all those wins of magic for someone just to leave, then it's their fault for using all those wins of magic on something that wasn't a sure thing. Because it is expensive. But it just seems to me like it doesn't actually make the game any more enjoyable. And that should be the priority here. It's just making new players feel like crap, and it's making advanced players feel like they can just stomp over everything. So that's boring, okay? We don't want that. So, yeah, I think that sums it up. So, yeah, thank you, Woody5, for the battle, and, you know, for helping me demonstrate that. Yeah, it's good fun. A bit of a whitewash, to be honest. A few mistakes, like, he sent the Companions of Quinnell after my demigriffs for some reason, which is a bit of a mistake. But still, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something, or, you know, it made you think about, you know, the real price of this spell. And that's variety, which is, you know, Warhammer's greatest strength. That's the real victim here. That and noobs. And no offense, I was a noob once. We all were. So, you know, we wouldn't have wanted to have to deal with this. Why should we, you know, why should they succumb to it now? It's evil. So, anyway, guys, so yeah, if you enjoyed this, or, you know, you found it informative, then please comment, like, and subscribe. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I know there's been, you know, a big discussion already under one of my videos about it, but, yeah, if we want to, I think we should just iron out what is wrong with Dwellers Below, and what can be done about it, or whatever. I think it needs discussing. So, yeah, so please do that. And, guys, I'll see you in the next video, which will be a battle again. A normal one, right? Not just a battle with a rant. So, yeah. So, yeah, see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.